Welcome to Business Women Australia podcast, the podcast for ambitious women who are serious about business success and leadership development, keen to increase their knowledge and skills.
And welcome to another episode, a very special episode of Business Women Australia podcast. And I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross, known as the Podcasting Queen. And I've got a very special guest, the Director of Business Women Australia. And of course, Lyn Hawkins joins me today. So Lyn, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Oh, I can't hear you. Now we can.
Excellent. Well, this is my first sort of live broadcast that's going out, I believe, to LinkedIn as well, which is obviously one of my favourite platforms. So
yes,
let's enjoy. Thank you for having me here at this busy time of the year.
Oh, you're so welcome. I couldn't think of anything better than to get you on the show, live stream, especially to hear about some of the wins, some of the things that you're celebrating at Business Women Australia. I know you've had a number of incredible meetings, incredible women, business owners and leaders from dynamic businesses. And maybe even we can talk about those, but also 2020 as business leaders, whether we're running our own business or whether we're working in a corporate space. What are some of the challenges that perhaps you've started to talk about? And then maybe we can identify some of the things to think about over the holiday season so that when we do go back to work and go back to business and our clients, we can be better prepared for an awesome 2020. How does that sound?
Sounds fantastic. So let's talk about a little bit what's happening with Business Women Australia. This year we have had a massive year. We had an incredible amount of engagement from women all around Australia, executives and professionals, partners of law firms, accounting firms, business owners and entrepreneurs. And we really had a wonderful time elevating some of their knowledge and their expertise into the marketplace and getting them seen. We've had subjects like international business, where we've had panels of women who've successfully cracked that international market and are doing awesome things there. We've had topics where we've been discussing the challenges of multicultural and multi-generational teams and workforces. We've had professional services disruption panels, really diving deep into what they're doing, what they're seeing with regard to the disruption across professional services, including engineering and architecture, accounting, legal, consulting, and even coaching. You know, it's a space that's been very disrupted. And in certain sectors, there's been all sorts of challenges, which we really had a great deep dive into. We've also had topics around negotiation, around LinkedIn. We've had some awesome marketing roundtables, some online masterminds, and we actually launched Courageous Conversations this year. Wow. And we hope to actually roll that out across all the states as well. So really not as workshop oriented and not as technically focused, but really about holding space for women. It can be lonely in these kinds of roles.
Yes.
And it's really nice to have a professional friendship group where there's Chatham House rules, and we have the really some really challenging topics that we deep dive into, and we have some awesome topics on those coming up next year. So no doubt we'll be connecting in to discuss that as they roll out.
Yeah, I love that. And featuring some of those experts that you'll be, having around the round tables and around the masterminds on the podcast as well. What I love about what you're sharing there is that because of the diversity of the membership and their backgrounds, what I love about that, when you get them to work together, to brainstorm around a table, there are often solutions that come from different industries that we would never have an opportunity to hear about and to further discuss unless, of course, we were around that table. So I think that's one of the real unique offerings of Business Women Australia. Speaking about disruption and change, I think we're at a time now, and even futurists are saying change is so quick. There are some things that they're not even able to predict because of the fast pace. What are you seeing, moving into 2020 now as business owners across, different industries? What are some of the key challenges that they're facing?
Look, Marie, I think the workforce coming through with their expectations about being involved in strategy, being able to put their ideas forward, being supported with flexible work arrangements. You know, this is a generation that's grown up as digital natives, and they really are a powerful, so they're an exciting, vibrant generation of new employees, and they aren't prepared to be just told what to do anything process oriented, which is great because those jobs are being disrupted anyway, and a lot of those are being taken over by AI and robotics and all the wonderful technologies that are able to do the processing sort of compliance work. So I think one of the big challenges is using that technology to our benefit, but also harnessing this incredible energy and self-belief that this next generation has coming through, and also being very mindful of our language as leaders, that it's inclusive, that some of the things that might have worked for us as being successful in our own careers, we really have to be mindful that we don't try and push those successful kind of methodologies to this next generation, because do you know what? I don't think the methodologies that helped us be successful are necessarily going to be relevant at all for this next generation and the challenges that they're actually dealing with and the opportunities that they will run with. So, you know, these are higher sort of leadership issues that we're facing, and I think we're all doing the best we can. Some of us struggling a little bit with that because it's a very quick change.
Yes.
And some of our organisations may be a little bit big and unwieldy, and with, you know, we saw it, you know, this year with you know, the various issues with, you know, financial and banking industry, all sorts of things. You know, a lot of our institutions are really being questioned. You know, we've had leaders in churches, you know, that have you know, have allegations against them. So the lack of trust that's coming from our youth is really one of the biggest impacts, I think, that we're going to see is this social license to operate. And, you know, kids all around the world, and I shouldn't call them kids, they're young adults, and they've really got a strong voice. They can power up through social media. They can actually disrupt so much to be heard. Yeah. And I think we have to really hear them. We need to sit back and say,
create
how
an
can
environment.
We actually co-create?
Yes, create an environment. Yeah, that allows them to do that.
Yeah.
One of the skills, or one of the, you know, we talk a lot about resilience, and I think resilience and you know, patience often, you know, we need time to build momentum. But I think moving forward, one of the most important skills as a business, no matter whether you're small or large, but this is where smaller businesses are able, if they've got the right system in place and the right approach, to be agile. Agility, I think, is one of the key skills that any business, to be able to shift and move. And I think that younger generation is able to do that. So we need to find out, how can we create an environment that allows all parties to step forward and together move quickly so that we don't lag. Because often now you see the businesses who do get there first, who do make the loudest noise or make the biggest impact, be the ones that are building that trust. Would you say that agility and creating an environment where these younger ones who've got natural skills to be able to do that, pick up technology quickly, to run with it, to give them space to come to the table and maybe make suggestions on how they see them contributing? Because often as leaders, we assume that we need to have all the answers, but create an environment that allows them to step up and share ideas. Yes?
Well, always the best leaders are the ones who have a facilitated framework, and it's always been the case. The best leaders will bring out great innovation from within and not be wanting to have the answers themselves always, as long as they can participate in the conversation. But they create an environment where it's safe and encouraging of innovation. I'm loving some of the internal sort of entrepreneurship programs. I'm loving the hackathons that are going on, where some great ideas are coming out, and the investments that are going on to actually implement and trial those ideas. Yeah. So I think, you know, it's more of that, and it's also about being brave and courageous. I think, you know, we were talking earlier on today, Anne-Marie, about visibility, and I think visibility is really important, and personal branding is important, not just in terms of the marketplace, But in terms of your own organisation and the team in which you're operating, gone are the days when you can sit quietly at your desk and be super efficient and get it in and out, and then hope that your good work is going to be enough to get, you know, a promotion or an opportunity if that's what you're looking for. If you really want to come to work with that passion in your heart, start working the organisation too. You've got to network internally as well as externally. You want to be thinking about developing the business, even if you don't own it. And so you want to take up opportunities to develop your skills in speaking, in doing things like this. This is all new to me. I'm just a newbie on this podcasting and broadcasting. And, you know, remember when we first met each other and I was like, oh, you know, I've got all these great members. Just interview those guys. Because that was my background, and my background was in strategy and marketing. So I was always comfortable pushing everyone else out.
Yes.
And I've realised how important it is that every single one of us is actually visible and that we're having a go at this. The other thing is, you know, you can't ask other people to do it if you're not prepared to do it yourself.
Oh, exactly. Something that you said earlier, and I'd love to pick up on that, the whole, you know, kind of the marketplace, and because of various aspects which you've already mentioned, have really caused society as a whole to be a lot less trusting of, you know, our leaders. And Edelman, they do an incredible survey every year, the Edelman Trust Barometer. And last year's, or this year's actually, 2019, has showed that the gap of, you know, an informed community. So these are people where organisations continue to inform them through newsletters and other means versus the mass public. Never has there been a greater gap between the trust, the points of trust. And they have found in the survey that many people now say they're not looking to governments, they're not looking to media, because media is another whole, you know, demographic that can we trust them because of fake news and so forth. They're now looking to executives, to CEOs of corporations, and saying to them, hey, we want you to step forward. What voice are you contributing to this, to climate change, to you know, a lot of different aspects? Where do you stand on that? And I think the younger generation, they now want to support businesses and even employers who have similar values, who stand for what they believe in, you know, so that they can collaboratively share that voice and bring that to market. And I think, as you said, CEOs have to share their voice, stand, because obviously they are the head of the company, but also empower like-minded individuals who are their team, you know, and other leaders in their organisation to also step forward with their personal brand, and have that unity in, as far as that brand voice, that brand message. So important in 2020 and beyond, isn't it, Lyn?
Absolutely. You've just done a beautiful summary of exactly what organisations, big and small, are all going to have to grapple with, because it's around that social enterprise aspect of our business. A business, even a for-profit business, needs to have a very strong social conscience now, and really start digging deep into what their values are as an organisation. Because I tell you what, this is a very informed consumer force coming through, and not only are they going to have a huge impact, they're actually educating their parents.
Yes.
I know as a mother of 4 children, you know, I've got a 17, 19, 21 and 23-year-old. And I continue to mentor at University of Western Australia, because these kids are teaching me all the time and keeping me connected to what is really going on. And I just think it's a very exciting time, and it's not a time to wait and see if it's going to go back to what it was in the old days. It's actually a time to find these fantastic, vibrant companies, to actually find the people that are going to bring some new life and some new ideas and some innovation. It might be a bit uncomfortable in your organisation when you do that. When you're a CEO and you used to, I mean, I've got a lot of great CEOs and I love them to bits, and I was one myself. I suppose I am one again. You know, sometimes it's a bit, we want it to be my way or the highway.
Yeah. Do we really need to do that?
We just have to change that. You know, that's the reality. That's just going to stifle people's ideas. If they don't feel valued, if they don't feel heard, if they aren't encouraged, you know what, they'll go, you know, I'm going to find, as they say, people won't leave the organisation, but they will leave the leader.
Yes, they
Quite
will.
often.
And as we know now, pretty much every one of us is carrying this around in our pocket. And this, you know, obviously this mobile device has us connected to the world. And whereas previously messages, may have been behind closed doors, now when anything happens, especially if it's leaked, it can find itself, information about your business and company plastered all over the internet. And so, in that instance, we used to call it that digital dirt. Many, many years ago, it was a term that I was taught by my mentor in personal branding. And, you can't ignore that anymore. And you have to have narrative to be able to share at an instant to talk against what is happening. Or, all right, if you did make a mistake as an organization, whatever size you are, how are you going to fix it? Because I think how we address it is very much going to determine your personal brand, but also the brand of the corporation as well, as far as if people will continue to trust. And I think a lot of times now we assume from the old days, let's just ignore it and it will go away. But this day and age, it won't go away. People will assume and make up their own narrative if you're not contributing to that conversation. What would you say, and maybe you've gotten feedback from organisations moving forward, where are they struggling specifically with moving forward in that? Is it the clarity around the message, or they're doing all of the let's do our corporate values and so forth, but then that document is filed at the bottom of the filing cabinet, never really lived out in the company? What are some of the issues that you find companies are stopping themselves from doing what we've just identified is so important moving forward?
Well, I thought the days had gone, where when I was a marketing manager and I would get asked to do, will you do the values and put them up on the website? Just, we'd like to just see what you've, just approve it. Yes. I'm so sad to say that that's still happening in some organisations, but I think there's definitely been a serious move away from that, and actually bringing in expertise to help identifying what are the core values, one of the leadership team or the owners, and then of the teams. As Business Women Australia, we spent a lot of time working on our values, and we see even our values as an evolving thing too. So what becomes more important when we need to be at a certain stage? We've been running now for 3 years, and different values have taken rise because they're more around that growth and courage and bravery to go to the next level, and always values around being honest and caring and loving. Being a female organisation, we have a lot of beautiful nurturing and supportive values in there. But I think that is a very important thing, that every organisation, no matter how small or big that organisation is, actually spending their time out. And this is a great time of the year where you're sitting back and you're reflecting on, what did we achieve this year? Not just thinking about that, but how were we behaving towards each other? How we were behaving to our fellow humans in the supply chain? How were we behaving to our customers in the acquisition and in the delivery process? Were we taking the time to hear? Were we being kind? Were we displaying all the important things that, as a human to human experience, that drives a really good relationship? Is it a healthy, wholesome relationship? What are we doing as an organisation in terms of our planet? How are we actually sourcing our products? Are they being sourced from places where people are being paid a fair wage? Are they being sourced from places and environments where children are not being put into terrible, terrible situations? Where is it coming from? How is it impacting our planet? Is there a better way of doing it? How are these sorts of really deep, important values actually disseminating into our discussions around values, not just focusing on, the traditional profit and financial focus.
Yes.
I think that there is a big movement, and this is what I'm loving about the power of the women's movement, because, we're daughters, some of us are mothers. We're women who really are thinking long term about the sustainability of the planet.
Yes.
Of the little girls we see going into school and the little boys, and what the future is going to be for their children and children beyond that. And I think that is really important, that we bring, as corporations, organisations, not-for-profit, for-profit, social enterprises, even the local pizza store, let's look at where everything's coming from and how we can actually make those little tiny personal responsibilities around making things better? Can we build that into a value system? And this is what I love about this next generation of entrepreneurs. They have a really, really strong social enterprise piece.
Yes.
And let's look and learn.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
brilliant. So inspiring.
Yeah, as you're sharing that, one of the things that has come up in many conversations that I've had over the number of different podcasts is around, we're talking about AI, we're talking about automation. However, what's more important now, even if we're looking at some of the consumer trends, is they expect personalization and they expect experience. And I think when we, as an organization, we not only define our core values, but we create almost like a living document. How, integrity. Well, what does that mean? Holistically across the environment. And when we're talking about customers, we need to talk about internal customers. Who are your staff? Who are your suppliers? It's not just, customers who invest into your business, but everybody, from the holistic point of view. And when we start to live that out, start to tell that story, and everybody knows that they're all working towards that one, that one key statement and live out the values. I think then as an organization, everyone continues to bring that experience that your customers, internal customers, stakeholders, really enjoy working for your business because they know where they stand, what you stand for, and that ultimately filters out into the marketplace, I think, too. But more importantly,
well, that's the contagion effect, isn't it? We talk about
it
the
is.
Effect.
It is.
And I think that's the basis of the philosophy of the positive psychology movement too, is that surrounding yourself by positive people, positive thoughts, being obviously working with whatever it is you're working with, but actually the contagious effect of people being positive and people being generous and people being loving and people being warm and real. It's something that just struck me then when you were talking, is that, the personal branding movement's an interesting one. I've been obviously following it very closely because it's one that really appeals to women to almost orchestrate a brand for themselves. And it worries me a little bit that in a similar way that as a marketer, I used to get sort of, I was always watching how products were being positioned in advertising. And I think it's really important that whilst personal branding is really key, it has to be authentic. And you can over stylize even yourself, and you can then start losing a sense of who you really are and what you really stand for. And just anyone who's listening, just be aware that we don't expect, when we talk about personal brand, we're not talking about having the perfect hair. I mean, look at me. I've got hair conditioner in today.
Before we went on camera, didn't we? We just got to get over ourselves, ladies.
I'm on holidays, but I can't say no to Anne-Marie because she's amazing, and I'm up for anything. That's what you get from me. And I've had so many beautiful people that want to fix me up and style me properly and, get me to that next level in terms of the way I look and behave. But I can play that game if I have to.
Yes.
But I really am much more comfortable just being me. And what I've found is that our members are always saying, please don't change. We just love it because it makes us feel really comfortable because we can be me too.
Yeah.
And
it is so true.
As leaders,
it's not about putting a mask on. Yeah, it's about identifying the best of who you are, the combination, and I mentioned this in one of the masterclasses, it's your aptitude, it's your attitude, and it's your approach. And a combination of those three things, along with your story, your journey, all of that is what really makes you special. And I think when we start to put labels and things like that, it's just not, it's not us. And so, and then those key things, you bring that out intentionally. And it's not hard, because it is just naturally you. So if it's a sense of humor, if it is someone that loves to mediate, so anytime, there's a bit of conflict, they just brilliantly step in and are able to calm and come, bring two parties to the table. There's certain skills and abilities and just approaches, I think, that people bring in. I think women do that so well. And I think a lot of it's been hidden because if we look, many years ago, decades ago in the workplace, we almost had to put on a mask take away a lot of that caring, nurturing. But now that is so valuable in the workplace, because when people feel safe, they're able to bring their best, and even overcome challenges, do so in a way that, hey, okay, well, we agree to disagree, but we have a deep level of respect for one another, even though we may have, differences of opinions, because, and I think that discussion and creating that environment, particularly where people are encouraged to bring their whole selves to the workplace. I think that has some real merit to that. So we're nearly at the end of time. We really just wanted to jump in, just do a bit of a celebration to where Business Women Australia has come, where they're moving into 2020. What are some of the exciting things that you have planned, particularly if people are watching or listening, and maybe even the recording, that may not have heard about the organisation? Share a little bit about what's coming up in 2020 and how can people find out more about BWA?
Well, 2020 is going to be more of what we've been doing right in 2019. So more of our online masterminds, podcasts. Anne-Marie, I'm hoping we're going to be able to do more of these live as well, perhaps for our premium members.
Yes.
This is a great opportunity and a new way for them to actually ease into new technology, try new things. We're all about experimenting at BWA, and we're all about having a go at putting our ideas into action. So we'll be doing events in Melbourne, in Sydney, in Brisbane, in Hobart and Perth, Sunshine Coast up and running, and in Bunbury, that's a southwest region of WA. Anyone who wants to come on board and set up their own Business Women Australia chapter, would love to hear from them. I've had some, that's how Hobart and how Sunshine Coast have come on board, is that I've had some dynamic women that have gone, we really need something like this over here. And, it's just wonderful to see that melting pot of amazing women who are all very serious about business, but not that serious about life. I guess we are serious about life, but we want to have some fun too.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of our events are very very focused on building those professional friendships, but also about raising the visibility of our members. So we try and feature at our events our members, and some of them, it might be first time that they've been on a panel, so we put them on a panel and give them some coaching beforehand, or they might not have spoken at an event before, so we make sure that they get well supported. A lot of the things that we have planned next year, we're looking at doing some collaborations with some big women's expos, sort of trialing that. They've come to us. A lot of people are coming to us now and saying, will you help us? Are you happy to collaborate? Can you co-create? If they are, if they have women ownership, if they have, so we want to be working with organisations who are seriously got women in the ownership seat, and have a focus on supporting and growing the success of women in business. Women's economic wealth and their economic prosperity translates into so many awesome non-economic and social benefits. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not crying. I'm not crying. I'm just I'm talking too much.
We get behind that movement. And I love that, because, you hear of some organisations, sadly, and BWA is certainly not one of them, where there are, people at loggerheads, and that, there's competition and there's trying to tear people down. Whereas I love what BWA stands for. It's awesome women who are all incredible in their, in their area of expertise. And guess what? We celebrate each other's, amazingness, if there's such a word, and we elevate. Everyone is elevated together. And I think, there's nothing worse than having other, an environment which tries to tear people down. I mean, let's just leave that at the doorstep. That no longer is relevant. Let's support everyone, as they continue, because I think when everyone rises, as you said, everyone gets to benefit, the businesses, the people that are working for the businesses, and ultimately the community as well. So fantastic. So what's the website, Lyn? People are waiting, I'm sure, to hear how they can connect.
www.businesswomenaustralia.com.au.
Fantastic. And yes, I cannot wait to feature some of the Premier members. And I'm one of those people that say to them, come on, let's just do a live together. It'll just be you and me staring at each other in the screen. Don't worry about all of the thousands of other people. Let's just have a conversation as if we were having a chat over the table. And I think you'd agree, Lyn, that it hasn't been too bad today, has it? Being the first time that you've been on a live, it's been an awesome fun chat. Wouldn't you agree?
It's been great fun, despite my bad hair day. And I wish, can I turn off my look at me? I keep looking at my hair.
We'll have a wonderful Christmas.
Have a wonderful Christmas, Anne-Marie, and to anyone who's listening out there in the global world that follows Anne-Marie, because she is amazing. She's a magnet for wonderful people, and she's always the source of incredible insights. Always love chatting to you, Anne-Marie. So have a wonderful festive season. For those who are celebrating in a religious way, really get into that, enjoy it. For those of you who aren't, just get into the spirit of this beautiful light and love and joy that is surrounding us at this time of the year. For those of you who are on your own, I know that's tough, and I have family members who are doing it tough, and friends, reach out and speak out if you need to be. I would love to invite you all over to my place. I've got a pretty big backyard, so if you're in Perth and you're on your own, you're welcome. If you can put up with the Hawkins family.
Lovely. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you again in 2020.
Thanks.